Hey everyone, it's Dane again, and I'm really excited because today I've got a project to do that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and that is an NES RGB mod. Now my buddy Hap hit me up, said he wanted one. I was like, I'm the guy for the job. I've been wanting to do a video on this for a long time anyway. So we're going to do an NES RGB. We're also going to do a full recap on this, and I'll get in there and probably disable the lockout chip in here as well. This is kind of a cool NES as well. This is one of the early models that has the smooth plastic on top, which I've actually only had a couple of those come through the shop, so it's just kind of a treat to work on it anyway. But yeah, let's get to it. Okay, let's get started. You can see this shell is a little old and crusty, but that's okay. I'll probably end up running this through the dishwasher, or at least scrubbing it, getting a little bit of elbow grease to get it prettied up. But yeah, this is one of those cool smooth plastic ones. You just don't see a whole heck of a lot of those, but this shell will look really nice once it's cleaned up and I hit it with some Novus plastic polish. That'll look great. I've already started pulling this apart a little bit. All right, let's get this mech pulled. Pop our pin connector out, and this one I have already gone in and polished up these connectors and bent them to make sure that there's a tight fit on the cartridge with these. So really this will fire up every time. You won't have to worry about the light blinking and all that stuff, at least after I disable the lockout chip. Okay, pull our power. Oh, you know what? Looks like I already disabled this, but let me show you how I went about doing that. So let me get in a little bit closer here so you can see the leg that you have to disable. Camera to focus. All right, so you can see it's the fourth leg on this 3193A chip. So you count in from the left, it's the fourth one. And now in the past I've disabled that just by clipping it. I guess for whatever reason on this one I decided to desolder that point and pull the leg up and through. So if for some reason in the future somebody wanted to re-enable the lockout chip on this, it'd just be a matter of bending it back through and resoldering it. But honestly, clipping the leg is just fine. You know, it just takes a second to resolder that connection anyway. But yeah, the next thing we're going to do is get started on our recap. So we have a few caps here on the main board, but the bulk of the recap will be done on this RF unit here. Now, in the past, with a lot of these, what I've done is actually desoldered all these large, you can see these are really big solder points here on the motherboard. But I think I don't know, I think I've got a different way I'm going to try doing that on this one. But first things first, we are going to hit these points on the board. So I'm going to dig out one of my NES cap kits and we will get replacing all these caps. Okay, so we have our motherboard pulled. You can see I pulled the camera in here a little bit, and I've gotten out my NES front loader cap kit from console5.com. You know, it can be cheaper to buy all your caps individually in bulk from electronic suppliers, but when it comes to convenience, like, hey, everything's already in a pack, ready to go, you know, I'll pay for that convenience. Yeah, so this is an NES front loader cap kit. You know, it's specific to the front loader, so if you go to buy one of these, make sure that it does say front loader or top loader, if that's you know, the one you have instead of the front loader that we're working on here. But yeah, that is what I usually use. So I've got my desoldering iron getting ready, and let's go ahead and flip on fume extractor, make sure I'm not breathing lead here, and we will get pulling these caps. Okay, so looks like our first one we'll pull up here is like it's these 2 points right here. So I'll go ahead and wet those first. It just helps, basically you reflow it first to make sure that your solder vacuum won't have too much of an issue getting down in there. So let's go ahead and do that first. You know what? I want some flux. And there we go. Our joints are reflowed, and you know what? Let's just go ahead and do that for all of these first. So there's that one, and then we have two more down here. So it's going to be these two. All right, there we go. Then our last one will be these 2 points right here. Just making sure that one really went through. So we've reflowed our old caps. Let's go ahead and pull those now. Now usually when I work on these, I tend to kind of put my finger on the cap and then hit the points from the other side. There's one. And I'm not pushing real hard against the board. I'm just kind of letting it rest up against it. There's one cap. There's another. Nope, looks like we left a little bit of solder on that first joint. Okay. And those were good, clean pulls. Alright, so next, I'm going to try this slightly different way of pulling our RF module. So, first thing I'm going to do is just remove this upper plate. And usually you can just kind of start with your fingernails on there. There we go, remove that plate. And so, these 4 points here should be what is anchoring this RF module to the motherboard itself. And I said that usually I, remove all these points here. It's kind of painstaking to do that, so I just want to see if this will go a little bit faster. So we're going to try it this way this time. But if for some reason it doesn't work, I can always go back to the way I usually do. One of the things you have to kind of watch out for in this RF unit is it's pretty tight in here, and so it would be pretty easy to bump one of these other small components inside there. So just be mindful when you're working in there. One of the other things I do standard in pretty much all of these is replace the 7805 power regulator, which is right here. So I'll probably just do that as part of the recap here. I'm not sure the nozzle that I have on here is actually big enough for these points. I'm going to try it and see what I get. Yeah, I was afraid of that. Those are pretty big, so either I need to change this to a bigger nozzle or just hit it with some desoldering braid. Maybe what I'll do is just pull the majority of this with the solder vacuum here. Yeah, if you kind of come at it from the side, you'll still remove most of the solder. And then we'll do a little cleanup with our solder braid and see how that goes. You see me doing that? What I'm doing is listening to make sure that my solder vacuum is all the way clear. Not trying to desolder my ear, I promise. Alright, let's clean this up with a little extra solder braid. And I think I might actually go ahead and switch to my chisel tip that I usually use. So actually I'm using an older tip that was a little bit better for my last project. But I usually really like these chisel tips. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back to that. Now, if you do this while your iron is hot, be really careful. It's a nice thing about these ones here is you can just pull them out while they're on. Just make sure that you are using pliers and you set them someplace where they won't burn anything while they're cooling. All right, and we are back up to temperature. That is one of the really nice things about having one of these temperature controlled solder stations. All right. right. So I'm gonna hit these all with a little bit more flux. And let's do some more cleanup with our braid here. Okay, I'm gonna come back on the back side of these, do one more pass, cut off that old braid, a little more flux. When in doubt, use extra flux. Alright, I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to use my pliers and let's test those points, see if they move. And those are like giant anchors, so they're not going to move too much. But let's see if this will come loose yet. Yeah, I am not getting the sense that that is wanting to pull away there. So I think, yeah, it looks like maybe it's just these two down here on the end that are causing the issue. You know what? I don't like it. I think I am going to just desolder these the way I usually do, and then maybe we'll inspect that a little bit more on the other side when we come back. But yeah, I'm just not feeling that there. What I think I'm gonna have to do is put a bigger head on my desoldering iron anyway, but yeah, I'm just not real comfortable with that. So what I am gonna do though is re-secure these pins so that in case any of them are completely free, when I desolder them from the other side, they don't just like fall back through. That would be a total pain in the butt. So we're just gonna re-solder those positions. It's worth trying it that way just to see. All right, and we are totally re-secured there. Oh no, I just dumped lead everywhere. My Hako, my iron sponge container at the bottom fell out, so watch out for that. I'm gonna clean that up. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. I've got a new, larger head on my solder vacuum, and we can start pulling all these really big solder pads to pull our RF unit off there. Well, you know what? I do want to wet those joints before I get started, so let's do that first. Alright, we'll use a liberal amount of flux there. What did I do with my solder? I'd lose my butt if it wasn't attached. Found it. Alright. Moving along. Let's go ahead and wet these joints. And this is a huge ground plane here, so it takes some time. In fact, I'm going to turn up the heat on my iron. Let's go ahead and turn that to 350. And honestly, with doing this, I would say 400 degrees is probably fine. There we go. Second joint. No big deal if those bridge right now. Let's go ahead and hit these particularly large globs here. These are always the worst. Alright, there we go. There's one. So the way that I usually approach these is basically solder vacuum away as much of that as I can, and then do clean up with my solder braid. Let's go ahead and start that. those are looking pretty good actually. And so with these big traces here, what I'm doing is doing my best to hit both sides. Now there's still definitely a little bit of solder in there, and the rest we're going to clean up with our soldering braid to try to finish breaking these free. But that should have been the majority of it. That is not wanting to start, so I'm gonna start with a fresh piece of braid here and use a little bit of flux. You know, I think I'm actually going to add back just a little bit of solder to the side of this, because it is just not wanting to flow out of that spot there. There we go. Just a bit. Just enough to hopefully get us to get that moving. I'm starting to see some solder move up that braid now. Yeah, these ones are being stubborn here. There we go. Okay, that actually looks pretty good. So now we're gonna grab those with our pliers and see if we can't get them to wiggle a little bit. Yeah, we're starting to get there. So we can see here that these are totally loose. All of our pins here and these 2 points. It's just this side of these guys that are being stubborn. So I'm going to try to just mechanically get those to come loose. And if that won't work, then we will just try it with the braid some more. Yeah, actually even this third one here is more or less loose. But yeah, these ones can definitely be stubborn. But you don't want to go real hard at them. You just got to kind of wiggle it until it comes loose. And if there's something still hanging on, sometimes you got to try to come at it with the braid some more. Let's see if we can't get a little bit more of that to come off with our braid. Let's try again. Okay, looks like actually there's a little bit more on this other side here that I didn't quite notice. So we're gonna hit that next, and hopefully my camera will adjust. Okay, let's see how we're doing now. There we go. So yeah, just a combination, a little bit of elbow grease and patience. Got to make sure that as you're working that, keep removing as much solder as you can, and yeah, just wiggle it, a little bit till it finally all comes free. But now our RF module is completely separate. We can see here that this is a Mitsumi, which is good to know, because that will actually help us figure out what we need to do as far as caps. Now Console 5 has a great wiki page where they have shown the different cap values that basically all these consoles should have, and in some instances actually they've discovered issues with original cap values and where you might need to replace them with new ones. Let's go ahead and pull this cover and take a look in our RF module. Okay, here we are. So looks like we have 1, 2, 3, just four caps in here. So this is our big one, a couple smaller ones, no big deal. Let's go ahead and wet those joints. We will pull those caps, and then we will get replacing them. And I actually need to also go find a new 7805 regulator to put in here. It's not a thing you have to do, but I have seen them go bad, so I tend to, when I'm doing a cap replacement, I just replace all the power regulators while I'm in there anyway. Here you can see I've got a bunch of new 78S05 regulators. It's a little more efficient, a little bit better. This is usually what I replace all my 7805s with. Okay, let's go ahead and get pulling these caps. Let's do the big one first. There's the big boy, and alright, then we've got, let's see here. Looks like one right here. Now be careful with this one because we are also welded right up against some much smaller components. So we're just going to need to be careful as we are working on these. Alright, I need to look a little bit harder and see where this third one is. Okay, it looks like it's these 2 points right here. Okay, let's pull the caps. Let's start with the big boy. Fell right out. That is a big old honking cap. Look at that. 2200 microfarad. Alright, so this is the one that we need to be pretty careful with while we're doing it. Alright, we're wiggling. So that one, you can see that a couple components are right next to it. When we put our new one in, we'll make sure that those same connections are correct. Moving on. And it sounds like I've got a clog here. Let's see if this cap is all the way free. Yep. I'm gonna try and see if I can get these last ones out. Negative. I definitely have a clog here. Let's try one more time. There we go. There we go. Actually, I do hear some air moving. I'll just hit that with one of my cleaning brushes here in a minute. Alright, so what we actually use to clean one of those out is one of these guys here. They come with the soldering station. Mine is one of those, I don't even know how you, oh yeah, it's an Anasty ZD915 is what I use. And so far it's been pretty good. I have had to replace the gun on it once. But basically you just run this right through a couple times, make sure that you are totally free. Okay, free and clear. Alright, so we have 4 components to replace, and I'm actually going to check the Console 5 website and see if there's any other values we should be looking at for our Mitsumi power supply here, or excuse me, RF module. Okay, so you can see that I have the Console 5 wiki up, and the RF module that we are looking at is this Mitsumi power modulator, the one at the bottom that is PCB TDK T3-1V. That is the one that we have, and you can see that we have our cap values listed right there. And so that is what we will use in our Console 5 cap kit as we go ahead and replace this. So let's do that now. Okay, so let's see if I can show you the PCB identifier in there. So you can see just up in that upper left hand corner where it says TDK T3-1V. That is how we know which one it is, aside from the actual cap layout, which they do have illustrated on the website. So yeah, let's go ahead and get cracking here. So C25 we'll do first, which is that upper left hand corner. And according to the Console 5 wiki, that is a 100 microfarad 10 volt. 100 mic, 10 volt. That is what we want right there. Negative is on the left, positive is on the right for this one. Let's go ahead and drop that one down in. All right, now how about C22? That is a 100 mic 16. So let's see if we have a 100 mic 16 specifically. That is a 100 mic 10 volt. Interesting, so those are both 100 mic 10 volts there? Yep, shouldn't really be any difference between those two. Yeah, we have two 10 mic 16s. So I'm gonna use these, oh no, I'm sorry, excuse me. We have one 10 mic 16 and then two 100 mic and then our big boy. All right, so we got a 1025, which would do for C6. All right, so these will pretty much do. So let's go ahead and just drop them in. I think I'll still do this 100 mic 10 volt. We'll do for C25. Negative left, positive right. All right, C22 is a 100 mic 16 volt. So we're gonna use one of these ones. Negative left, positive right. Okay, and then C6 is our 10 mic 16 volt. So we'll use our 10 mic 25 for that, which is basically positive toward the right, negative to the left. And we'll go ahead and solder these ones in, and then we'll do our big one. That's okay if they fall down a little bit. We'll do the easy ones first. All right, so the way I usually like to do these is to just solder one leg first, like so. Pull it all the way up. Let it, there we go. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then do the other one. There's one. There we go, looks pretty good. Finish that one up, like so. And our final one. Again, just want to be careful on this since you will be welding multiple components at once, like so. And this one I'll even sort of press from the opposite side and push it through just exactly the way I want. That way you can see it's sitting down flush perfectly. Alright, not bad. So there are all of our smaller caps, and we can drop the big boy in. So negative side on the left, positive on the right. So with this one, definitely I'm going to press down from the opposite side to make sure it is sitting as flush as possible, because that is a really huge cap. Okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and clip our legs and clean up our And I'm just being careful when I'm clipping those legs. Alright, good as new. Alcohol and a Q-tip, and we will clean up our extra flow. Now, doing your RF module like this isn't strictly necessary. If you still use an RF connection, or even your standard RCA connections, probably not a bad idea to do. But I like to kind of do it for posterity, you know, make sure that this thing is going to work no matter what well into the future. That's why we go to all this trouble, right? I mean, that and hot rodding these old consoles is just fun, but I love knowing that we're future-proofing them as well. Okay, excellent. So let's go ahead and put our RF module back together. Snap that back in. Alright, now this RF module is good to go. We will come back and replace the 7805 regulator here in a little bit. Okay, now we are back to our main board. So let's go ahead and replace our three caps here. So first one is C23. and that is a 1 mic 50. I believe is one of these guys right here. 1 mic 50. Nice thing about these is it even says in the silk screen on the board, if you look on the left side there, it says 1 microfarad. And again, that is negative to the left, positive to the right. It even shows you on the silk screen on this one what side needs to go where. And these we will just do as we go. Okay, making progress. So our next one is right here, C9, and we know that one is a 2.2, but we'll check and see if our values are the same here. Yep, 2.250. So that is going to be this one right here, our 2.2 mic 50 volt. And now if I remember right, we'll probably end up bending these over because I think that they have to sit under our NES RGB board. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that now while I'm in here and thinking about it. So let's see here. Probably end up bending this guy back this way a little bit. I think our board will still fit under there. Although we can probably put the other one right on top of it. Well, let's just play around with this a minute and kind of see. Probably want to go here with this one, like so. And then our other one, C1, which is a 100 mic 6.3 volt. So this is a 110, so that'll do. And this is a 125, so either one of those will do. And they're about the same diameter. But we are going to want them. So actually, we're going to do the short one because I shouldn't even have to bend that. That should just sit flush under that board, no problem. So we'll go ahead and drop that one in there right now. Yep, we should be good to go just like that. Yep, we're good to go there. Alright, let's hit all those with some flux, re-wet them, make sure they're exactly what we want. And that is all there is to recapping an NES. Really nuts. Cool. Let's go ahead and clip those. Let's check out our work. Come on, focus, man. Yeah, having trouble with this camera focusing. One of these days, by the way, if anybody has any suggestions for a good camera that you can manually focus, I would be all ears because I am not super crazy about the one that I am using. But anyway, you can see we have good solder joints at all those positions. So the next thing we're going to do is clean up this board. You can see there's tons and tons of residue down here. So we just want to clean all that up. And yes, we will have to clean it up again when we reattach our RF module. But I like to keep things nice and tidy as I go. Okay, much better. Alright, let's go ahead and reattach our RF module. Looks pretty good. I'm going to add a little bit more to this first one and a little bit more to the last one. And let's hit our anchors. Alright, this calls for a little flux. By a little, I mean a lot. These big anchor points just require a lot of heat. Alright, that looks pretty good. Alright, last bit of cleanup, and then we will replace our power regulator. Looking good. Okay, so there's a reason that I waited till the end to do our voltage regulator. So I've got my 78 SO5, which is going to replace our 7805 that's in there, but it has to do with this heatsink here that you remove when you pull your NES apart. Basically, that is going to make it easier to line up your power regulator because it has a screw. And so that will help us determine how deep to actually seat our 78 SO5 when it goes in there. All right, let's go ahead and pull our old voltage regulator. So let's go ahead and wet those joints. I think it just wants to fall out of there. Yep, there we go. So I don't even really need to use the solder vacuum for that. Since that just fell right out, we will just use our solder wick, clean up those pads. Alright, how we looking? Perfect. We are nice and clean. Okay. And there is our old 7805. So what we're going to do here is basically drop our 78 SO5 right down in our heatsink, and we're going to screw it in. Go ahead and use our pliers. We'll come at it from the back side here. Now, what do you know, that I don't necessarily think that's the right screw. Let's see what happens here. Back quick test. Let's see if that. Yeah, that ought to screw in right there. Okay, yeah. I think that's right. There we go. So you can see that our heatsink has now placed our 78 SO5 in the exact position it needs to be in for us to solder that into place at the correct height. Okay, we are now ready to test this out and make sure that our recap and voltage regulator replacement are working. We want to make sure this all works before we even start messing with the Nes RGB mod. So let's check that now. Okay, so we're just setting this right back down in our case here. Real easy. Let's connect our power. Have that bad boy upside down. Come on, Dane, gotta be smarter than the connector. All right, there we go. And let's see. There's that one. And controller 1. Don't really need to hook up controller 2, but whatever. That's where it is. Okay, we'll set that down. Pin connector. Put that on the back. All right. So that is pretty much everything we need to test. So let's do it. Okay, let's check this out. We will use this copy of Metal Storm, and we will hook it up over on my small 5-inch PVM, which I have set up for composite video, which is what this is currently using before we switch it to RGB. So let's go take a look. Sure, I get us more or less lined up here. Cool, I think it works. Okay, well, I think I'm going to call it for tonight. That was pretty good progress. We got our recap in, we got our voltage regulator replaced, made sure that everything is good to go for when we start to do our RGB mod next. So yeah, I am stoked for that. You always want to make sure when you can with projects like this that you sort of work in phases and you check your work along the way. You know, I think the first time I did one of these, I replaced all of the caps, put in a new voltage regulator, did the entire RGB mod, put in my palette jack so I could flash the board with new palettes, put in my rotary knob so I could switch my color palettes and the games and everything. Did all of that before I checked anything. Now, I was lucky. I got through that and everything just worked. I did okay. But you know, it would have made it way harder to troubleshoot on the other side of that. So, you know, stuff you pick up along the way, but definitely, you know, when you do something in phases, just that way, you know, it's like, hey, if something's messed up down the road, it's not because I missed, you know, one leg of a capacitor up inside some piece of the thing that I got to go dig out and check. You know, it just makes things easier. But yeah, this was a lot of fun tonight. Hope it was helpful for you if you're doing a recap. And yeah, next time we will get on to the NES RGB. Can't wait. Bye now.